Queen Latifah. Welcome to So Money. It's such an honor to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, just want to say before we get started, I want Queen Latifah every day, all day. I really miss your talk show. Those were the days.
I know we missed that joy in the middle of the day, huh?
It was nice. It was a nice departure, but it's nice to have you here. I know you have so much on your plate, and I want to just dive right into the Queen Collective. This is an outstanding program in its second year, very exciting, a joint partnership between you, Tribeca Studios, Procter and Gamble, giving women of color in film the opportunity to tell authentic stories from their viewpoints. Tell us how this opportunity first came into play. This is awesome.
Well, there was a big women's summit in Manhattan. Mark Pritchard and I both sat on the panel, and when it was all over, it was a huge success. A lot of really important people, and just of course regular people. But when it was all over, Mark and I looked at each other, and I was like, "Man, Mark, we got to do something." And he was like, "You're right. We have to do something together." We came to him with this idea of the Queen Collective, where we would give an opportunity to a female director to have her film made, financed, and have her story told. Because the problem is that only 10% of the commercials that you see are directed by women. Less 10% or less of the media you see is directed by women. And it's really important that, Mark felt very strongly about we want to see that they wanted to see 100%, and we want to see 100% of women and girls portrayed accurately. And it's going to be impossible to do that if you don't have women telling the story, if you don't have women behind that camera, if you don't have women as part of that crew, if you don't have women as producers. To make sure, I'm sure we've all watched some commercial along the way or some movie, and we're like, huh? It just seems so far fetched that it would ever even make it that far. But when there's not a woman behind that lens, to say, hang on, let me do this, let's do that, let's change this now, that feels real. You
Mm-hmm.
Then you know what the difference is. So we partnered with Tribeca. Of course, we partnered with Procter and Gamble, and we partnered with Tribeca, who has a long history of supporting women directors and has a huge amount of treatments that people were able to submit, and they have curated. So we were able to tap into their sort of machine, if you will, over there, and they have supplied not just treatments and not just stories to tell, but also the mentorship that comes along with it. So you get to make your movie, have it paid for, have it supported, and have and be mentored every step of the way. That's something that is so important. And then to have it distributed.
Right.
Um,
Access to money is often so much of the hurdle, but then when you're talking about women, especially women of color, you're chasing it for money in the context of racism and sexism, right? And so where do you even begin to um, fight that fight? How did you do it? And what in terms of mentorship, how are you mentoring these startup filmmakers, these female filmmakers?
you start in the mirror. You have to start with yourself. I think you have to start with some self-examination, and to make sure and to see what's affected you and what's affected your view of things. How do you look at your fellow coworkers? How do you look at women? How do you see yourself as a woman? Where do you feel your power has been snuffed out or taken away in certain ways? Where have you seen your advancement be stunted? And how can you make change there? And how can you connect with other people who have been through what you've been through, perhaps, and coalesce and create more of a movement and not be alone in it? And so for me, from the moment I made the record Ladies First, it wasn't about telling guys I don't like the way you talking to me, which was true. But I said, let me look at us first. If we're standing next to each other, they have no choice but to treat us the way we're supposed to be treated. It's always about let's connect with each other. We're stronger in numbers. When we stand up for ourselves, when we connect with each other, um, the system is going to have to change, um, at some point. So we've seen the numbers behind what happens when you hire a female director. See the diversity that occurs in the hiring practices behind the lens. And so one person can make a big difference. I can attest to that. Being a person who's gotten to the point in her career where she could decide who was hired and not. I made sure that anyone producing a film for me actively sought a diverse group of people. But if I did not make sure that it was done, then the same people would have been hired again and again and
Right.
again. And I would have looked out past that camera and seen a bunch of people who did not look like the America I know.
It was NYC women filmmakers that put out a quote this week that said, film and media is one of the most powerful ways the country can disseminate white supremacy to the world. We often forget the power of film and media. We consider it entertainment, but it's much more than that. It's a tool to fight systemic problems.
And it's a tool to promote them,
Hmm.
So we have to realize that you can use you can use media to promote those terrible ideas. You know, you say, hey, somebody robbed me today, but then you put up a picture of the person who did not rob you, and you show that they're a person of color. Then if your volume is down, you think, oh, a robbery happened. Oh, that guy did it.
Right.
See, that's the ways that things, kind of seep into your brain in the wrong ways. But me as a person of color would make sure that that story was not told that way. If I was the one producing that segment of the news, I would make sure that it did not happen that way, that it was told more accurately, And so when as a young female rapper traveling the world and seeing how we were portrayed around the world and how rap was portrayed. I felt like I always had to explain to reporters from different countries what our experience is like, and I had to make sure that I was uh, me, a young, articulate woman from Newark, New Jersey, who was intelligent and had no problem explaining my position. But it felt like I had to speak for everyone because the media had us looking crazy around the world, So
Hmm.
when you have an opportunity to give a young woman, or not even a young woman, a woman of color, or a woman, period, an opportunity to tell her story, she can tell it in a more accurate way and a more real way. And she's probably going to tell a story that would not be told if she weren't in that position.
Queen, I'd love to explore a little bit about your background. This show is about money. I know you like to talk about money. You're not shy when you talk
My
about
house and
beautiful house.
this is some whiskey and there's some brandy, but I don't.
Yes,
So this is strictly for
so
that.
money. Um, so first question,
I mean,
let's talk about wealth. What does wealth mean to you? I'm just curious. I know you told Forbes that, checks will come, but you need to focus on work that is worth it, uh, meaning that it's worth the time. So when you think about your personal wealth, how would you define that? What is the pursuit?
oh my God, that is such a big question. You
Yes, and we have 60 seconds. No, I'm kidding.
all right, so I think wealth number one starts with, for me, my idea of what family and friends are. So my wealth is emotional wealth, and family wealth is important to me in that sense. Um, Financial wealth then springs from that. What can I do to enhance the lives of my family, my friends? Um, and, I think it's important to get for young people to receive an education about how finance works. I didn't, for my family, it was about my mom I remember my bank book and my mom opening a savings account for my brother and I as kids. And we got to put a little bit in that bank book and look at what was in our savings account. And then you grow up and you realize, wait, that's not the account that we should have had this money in. We should have had it in a different account that was earning interest, or we should have maybe been investing, but we didn't know. And so I think financial literacy is really important uh, for creating Black wealth. Um, I think for us to understand the power of our dollar
Hmm.
and to make sure companies respect our spending and respect our dollar and reinvest in us is very important as well, because that way the money keeps going around. And I think, um, uh, just kind of having a plan in terms of what your goals are and what you would like to accomplish. I feel like some of the greed that we see and the reason we can't spread the wealth out a bit is because there's no out for a lot of the people who are making a lot of money. There's no enough. There's no goal. The goal is to keep making money, but that's like a hamster on a wheel. You know what I mean? There has to be some end game that you say, okay, what do I need to make sure my family is good, to make sure I'm good, that my community's good, or the things that I want to invest in life, or I can always support this organization or that. If those are the goals that you have for your life, then those are the things that you can work towards. And then you say, okay, I'm at this age, I want to kind of just hang out and not have to work. Well, then now you got a goal, you got something to work towards. But if you just like working to work, I'm not with that. You know what I mean? That's just me. I'm only speaking for myself, but I don't want to work just to work. I want my work to be worth it. Yes, because I'm putting my life's energy into this. And
Hmm.
I want the time that I spend away from my family and my friends to be worth it. I want to be doing a job that fulfills me, makes me feel happy, that even when the hours are long and I'm exhausted, I leave there like, yeah, that was a good day's work. You know what I mean? And I like that feeling. So I think it's important for people to make sure they're in careers, or they're going for careers or creating careers that they feel good about. And you gotta kind of watch the money. Unfortunately, as I started making money at a young age, at
What was
17.
your first job? What was your first job?
Well, my first job was at Burger King at 15. I made minimum wage, but I was excited to see that first check. My first check was for like $87 and some change. And it meant that I got to like spend some money, but also give my mom some money, contribute to the household. It was
Hmm.
cool. 15. It's great for a first job.
Sure.
It
It's a
ain't good.
lot of burgers.
And I was the one flipping them. I wasn't on the register. I was flipping burgers.
Yeah.
So my second job was at a record store called The Wiz, and I was selling my own record. Like it was vinyl at that time, and
Oh
I
my
was 7
gosh.
years old. My first single came out, and people would come in the store and ask for my record. And it was like, that's me, right? It would be
Amazing.
funny, and they're like, huh, this is you? And I'm like, yeah, you want me to sign it for you? It was kind of a joke. I'm 17. And then I started college at BMCC, Borough Manhattan Community College. And then I left school. I left because I was like, these records are starting to play on the radio, and I'm starting to get shows offers, and I need to really focus my attention on this career, this rap career, and I'm gonna put everything I have into it. So I had a conversation with my mom. I said, Mom, I want to take a year off from college, and I'm going to put 100% into this career, this rap thing. And if it doesn't work, I promise you I'll go back to school.
That
And
must have been was that a tough conversation? Because a lot of parents want to see their kids just stick with college. They're not as risk, taking as their children may be.
well, it was not as tough a conversation because my mother knew me. My
Hmm.
mother knows her kids, and she's watched this develop in me. She introduced me to the DJ who would become my producer, as a matter of fact, because my mother was a high school teacher and a class advisor. So when they had like fundraisers, she hired the DJs for the party, and that DJ went on to be my first producer. And so I think my mother was just in touch with the pulse of the youth and what was going on, and she encouraged and supported, the youth. And my partner Shakim, he was one of her students as well. So she got what was happening. She saw this thing happening, probably the way rock and roll happened, in her day, or folk music, or the Beatles, or in me. She introduced me to the DJ who would become my producer, as a matter of fact, because my mother was a high school teacher and a class advisor. So when they had like fundraisers, she hired the DJs for the party, and that DJ went on to be my first producer. And so I think my mother was just in touch with the pulse of the youth and what was going on. And she encouraged and supported, the youth. And my partner, Shakim, he was one of her students as well. So she got what was happening. She saw this thing happening, probably the way rock and roll happened, in her day, or folk music, or, the Beatles, or, the Jacksons or something. She saw what was happening. And so she agreed. She said, okay, I'll let you get this year off. But, you had to go to college in my house or at work. You weren't just going to hang out. There was
Yeah.
no chilling. We're either going to school, we're working, we're doing something. So um, I took that year off, and I never looked back, actually. Everything became a success. We opened up our own management company. We managed some of the top gold and platinum acts of our time. And my mother was there every step of the way with that, and she was the one who actually opened up my first account with Merrill Lynch. She opened up accounts for my partner and I both, and was like, oh no, we need to make sure your money is over here. So again,
Yes.
she helped us out.
How did you know who to trust? How did you know which advice to take? So much of especially in your business, in your industry, there's a lot of people that fall victim, right, to scams and mismanagement of money and bad deals. And how did you stay above that?
I didn't stay above that. We went through that.
Mm,
We went through that. We didn't get an education in rap, and we didn't. We were learning on the job. This was on the job training for us. We had some mentors around the business who helped us out with a lot of things, but yeah, I had to fire my first accountant because I went to meet with them and there was no money in the bank. It was like all of these checks had been written out to this and that and everything, and they were signing these things, and I had no money. So, needless to say, I fired that guy and that company, and it took a minute to find the right person. And so I eventually found a great accountant and honest person who just had some character and smarts, and we've been together for years. So I was very fortunate to finally find someone, and I actually found it through one of our artists that we represented, as well as my attorney. I found him through one of our artists that we represented. So we took some bumps and bruises, and I've taken bumps and bruises through the years trying to manage things and learning I had to sign all my own checks and not leave things in other people's hands because they get away from you. And you realize you're working, but you're not like watching where everything is going, and it can get away from you. So, you just have to pay attention to it. You have to pay attention to it and
fire fast.
fire, yeah,
Fire fast.
quick, and move on. Find somebody find somebody with some character because it's hard to find, but hopefully, if that's what the goal is, you hold on to them.
Queen Latifah, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the Queen Collective. We wish you and the artists so much continued success, and be safe out there.
Yes, and let us know what you think about it, and join us. Actually, support us. We want to get some more female directors out there. So feel free to. I'm calling on all of the business community to join us and support the Queen Collective.
We shall. Thank you.